All right, let's get right into it. You've probably seen these crazy yields in DeFi, heard them called these powerful money machines. Well, today, we're going to pop the hood and see exactly how the gears on those machines actually turn.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question, right? You see some insane double-digit APY pop up, and you've got to ask yourself, where's this money really coming from? Is this for real? And more importantly, what's the catch?
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. Think of it like a yield ladder. We're going to start on the bottom rung with the simplest stuff, and then, step by step, we'll climb our way up to the really sophisticated pro-level plays.
All right, first rung on the ladder, the lender's cut. This is probably the one you're most familiar with, right? You put your money in, somebody else borrows it, and they pay you interest. Seems pretty straightforward. But who decides what that interest rate is? How does that actually work?
Well, it all boils down to one word: utilization. Think of it like the gas gauge on a car, but for a lending pool. It's just what percentage of all the money in the pool is currently being borrowed. That one little number, that's the dial that controls the whole machine.
Okay, so what happens when that gas gauge gets dangerously close to empty? I mean, if everyone borrows everything, and then you, the lender, wants your money back, there's nothing left. The system would break. So it needs some kind of safety valve, right?
And this is that safety valve. It's this really cool mechanism called the kink. Look at the two zones here. As long as borrowing is in that sweet spot, that optimal range, the interest rates go up nice and slow. But the second it crosses that line, bam, the system slams on the brakes. Borrowing rates just shoot through the roof. It's a massive signal to borrowers to pay back their loans. And it tells new borrowers, hey, don't even think about it right now. It's all about protecting the people who put the money in, the lenders.
So what does that mean for you? You're the one supplying the cash. Let's put some real numbers on it. Let's say the pool hits that 80% utilization, right at the kink. The borrowers are paying, say, 4% interest. The protocol shaves off a little bit for itself, and you, the depositor, end up with 2.88%. And that's not some made-up number. It's calculated in real time based purely on how much demand there is to borrow your money.
Okay, let's climb up to level 2. This time, you're not a lender. You're a toll booth operator on the crypto highway. You're providing your assets to a trading pool, becoming a liquidity provider, and for every single trade that happens, you get a tiny little fee, a little slice of the action.
But, being a toll booth operator isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It comes with this really tricky, often misunderstood risk called impermanent loss. Basically, it's the risk that you would have made more money if you had just held on to your assets instead of putting them in the pool. It happens when the prices of the two assets you deposited start to drift apart. So it's this constant battle. Are the fees you're earning enough to outweigh this potential loss?
Now you got to know that not all of these trading pools are the same machine. You have your standard all-purpose pools that are good for really volatile stuff. But then, for assets that are supposed to be worth the same thing, like two stable coins that should both be $1, you use a specialized tool, a stable swap AMM. It focuses all its firepower right around that $1 mark. For traders, this means way better prices. And for you, the liquidity provider, it can mean more consistent fees.
So the big question is, when do you actually make money doing this? Well, it totally depends on the market weather, so to speak. If the market is just bouncing around, going sideways, great. You're just sitting there, collecting fees, and you'll probably do better than someone who just held. But, and this is a big but, if the market picks a direction and just runs with it, you've got a problem. Your fees can suddenly stop, and that impermanent loss can really bite you. You could easily end up making less than if you'd just done nothing at all.
All right, moving on up to level 3. And this is where things start to get spicy. We're talking about leverage. This is where you take your assets, lock them up as collateral, and borrow against them to get more firepower. But you know the saying, with great power comes way, way more risk.
If you're playing this game, there is one number you have to be obsessed with. It's your collateralization ratio. Think of it like the health bar in a video game for your loan. It's a simple comparison. How much is your collateral worth versus how much is your debt worth? And your only job is to keep that health bar from falling below the minimum level the system requires.
So where's the danger zone? What's the exact price that gets you in trouble? The great thing is, this isn't some secret. You can figure out your exact liquidation price. It's not complicated math. It's a simple 3-step formula. And this turns that vague feeling of, oh no, I hope the price doesn't drop, into a hard number that you can actually track.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine you put up 100 ETH to borrow 150 grand. You do the math, and boom, your liquidation price is $2,175 per ETH. That is your line in the sand.
If the price of ETH dips down and even touches that number for a second, a smart contract can automatically sell off your ETH to cover your debt. And yeah, there's usually a painful penalty involved. It's a cliff you absolutely do not want to fall off.
Now, let's flip that around. If ETH is trading at, say, $3,200, that means you have a 32% safety buffer. That's your cushion. That's how much breathing room you have. The price can fall by almost a third before you need to start panicking. And really, the whole game of using leverage is just managing that buffer, making sure it's big enough that you can sleep at night.
Okay, we've made it to the top of the ladder, level 4, the pros play. This is where we start combining some of the things we've learned to pull off a really sophisticated strategy. The goal? To earn yield without caring if the market goes up, down, or sideways. We want to be market neutral.
So what yield are we hunting for? It's something called the funding rate in the futures market. Here's the simple version. When lots of people are super bullish and betting the price will go up, they, the longs, have to pay a tiny fee to the people who are betting the price will go down, the shorts. Our entire strategy is to position ourselves to be on the receiving end of that payment.
Okay, but how do you collect that fee without getting wrecked if the price moves against you? It's a classic pro strategy called cash and carry. It's like a perfectly balanced scale. On one side, you buy the actual crypto. On the other side, you short it in the futures market. The two moves cancel each other out. So if the price goes up or down, you don't care. You're neutral. Your only profit comes from collecting that funding rate, and then you just subtract all your costs. So in this example, over 30 days, that nets out to a cool $5,500. Now, if you could keep that up for a whole year, you're looking at a 6.6% APY. And what's so powerful about that is that it has nothing to do with the price going to the moon. It's just a yield you're harvesting from the mechanics of the market. But, and there's always a but, there's no free lunch here. The risk is that sentiment flips. Everyone gets bearish, the funding rate goes negative, and all of a sudden you're the one paying the fee instead of collecting it.
So, we've climbed all 4 rungs of the ladder. We've gone from simple to complex. What's the one thing you should walk away with? It's this: know your machine. Look, the yield you see in DeFi isn't just printed out of thin air. It's not magic. It comes from real economic activity. You've got yield from lending, which is paid by borrowers. You've got yield from trading, paid by traders. And you've got yield from derivatives, paid by people who want leverage. For every single source of reward, there is a direct, unavoidable, corresponding risk.
At the end of the day, there is no such thing as a risk-free lunch in DeFi. The only question you have to ask yourself is, which of these risks do I understand, which ones can I manage, and which ones am I actually willing to take on for the potential reward? We've opened up the machine and shown you the gears. Now, it's up to you to decide which ones you want to engage with.